But anyway, as always for the Weekly R&G, we have a guest in the studio, and this week it is Jeniqua. Hello, Jeniqua.
Hey, how you going? Nice to be here.
Excellent, excellent stuff. Now, Jeniqua is an artist that I've been playing, or I've been bigging up for a good few weeks now, basically. I first heard of Jeniqua's track "Making Love." That's right. I believe it was good 3 months ago now. And originally, I got the electrified dub mix.
Ooh.
Okay.
Shake it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yes, I got the electrified dub mix, which initially, to my shame, I actually thought it was a US production with a US artist and everything. I actually thought it was American.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
That's
did.
cool.
I actually thought it was an American act and what have you. And funny enough, it was someone on my Facebook, the online community, keeping you informed, who informed me actually that not only were you Australian, that you were local to this radio station.
Very local.
So so without a doubt, I thought, well, what we try and do. Listen, 2SSR, which is the host of this particular show, is a community radio station. For all those of you who are listening on the podcast or on the live stream, it is a community radio station. Although we have shows that are world class, like for example this one. But so. Basically, I thought it was my job to make sure that I promote Jeniqua's music as much as possible.
Appreciate it.
And then also to find the time to get you to the studio. Now, I know you're a busy girl. Okay. So first of all, what I'd like to do, because I know that, as is always the case with Australia, you guys don't know your artists too well. Okay. So I'd like you to tell the listeners exactly what is your vibe, okay, and how you got introduced to your chosen genre, shall we say? Okay.
I'm an R&B soul artist, and I guess it stemmed from gospel. I grew up in the church and worship led in church for many years, and there was nothing like it. It was just amazing. And I guess in my music, I put that into there. It's the ingredient in my music and of songs that are uplifting. Life that I've lived, challenging times, great times. Yeah, it's just all in there. So that's what I do.
So, I mean, was gospel music, I suppose, let me get this straight. You actually grew up in the Shires, didn't you? You actually grew up in Sydney, is that correct?
I was actually born in Wollongong, down the coast a bit further, but yeah, just been in the Shire for a long time, and I lived in Sydney and overseas and whatever, but I'm based here now.
And was gospel prevalent? Was it like a big scene at the time when you were growing up? Was it going to church and getting into the whole gospel thing? Was that the thing at the time? Well,
for my family it was, and I grew up with the worship teams and all that kind of thing, and put myself in them because I just absolutely love singing. So I just thought it was just normal for me to do that, and I just love praising God and everything that He's done in my life to this day, and always will. So yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, when I announced that I was going to be showcasing a gospel house show, I know there were a few raised eyebrows. One of the things you don't do on radio is, unless you're a specialist talk show, you don't get political, and you don't get religious or whatever else. Okay. Did you find that when you started getting involved in the gospel scene that you found that you were sort of pushed aside by mainstream, or did you find that there wasn't a problem, basically?
For me, I've never really followed the rules that people have put on things like that. I don't believe in religion. Okay. I have a relationship with God, and I just believe in what God represents in everyday life, in everything, in different forms. It was just natural for me to just keep that alive in my music, because I've got a lot to be thankful for. And I guess not getting caught up in any, like cliques or anything like this. I just do what I do, I've got 2 children. When they're asleep, I'm there writing songs, about what's on my heart. So, yeah.
Excellent. So the Making Love track, how did that how did it come about that it was remixed by the guys in the States? What was all that about?
Well, it was actually 2 guys from Europe Cool Million. Yeah,
Okay.
they found some of my music on MySpace, and I'm so grateful for MySpace because that was a great connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was birthed from there, and they liked what I did, and we found out, I found out that they work with other artists as well. So they sent me 2 tracks, like loops of music and stuff, and said, "Can you write something to this?" And I did. As soon as I got it, I felt the connection straight away. And the song was birthed in literally 10 minutes.
Wow.
And I do write fast. I don't try to. I've got so many songs in me that just want to come out. So
Sure.
that's just what I do. So yeah, did that, sent them back to them, and then they chose. It was only one of them they were going to choose for a compilation album, soul compilation album, with different artists that are already established, like Eugene Wilde, from the 80s and stuff like that.
Oh,
Melissa Morgan.
Yeah.
A few other ones as well. And it was birthed that way, and they loved it, and the song ended up on that compilation album. It was the 3rd song down, and ended up being the third single off the album.
So, this album was called
Back for More.
Back for More.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know for a fact that the track itself got in at #1 in the UK soul charts.
Well, it was it debuted in the UK soul chart at number 11,
Right.
and then within that week went to number 3. But it's been sitting at #1 for many months at tracksource.com.
Yes.
Yeah.
In actual fact, that was where I actually became aware of the track. It was through TrackSource.
Oh, great.
And as you know, TrackSource are a sort of Anglo-American outfit. So, that was where I sort of made the American connection. And it was actually when I was doing the track listing for one of my shows that one of my Facebook members actually said, "Oh, actually, that Jeniqua track, she's a local girl."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Far out, small world.
So okay, so that goes to #1. So what? So how has it progressed since?
Well, because of the success of it and the reviews and everything, all the DJs were loving it, and radio stations and stuff. So then the guys did 5 different remixes, and then 4 of them actually did their own. They did well on their own, but collectively each one of them had a place in the top 20 of the top 100 downloads for tracksource.com for the R&B hip hop category.
Excellent.
So I mean, there's a few still in there, but the one that's remained is the urbanized mix. So at #1, yeah.
Okay.
So I check that regularly because if these things move around a bit, but that's actually stayed there. I mean, I think it's gone from 1 to 3 and then back to 1 and it's sitting at 1. So I'm really grateful. It's awesome.
I suppose one of the amazing things with sites like TrackSource and Juno and what have you else, and actually having so many different mixes, is that you actually get to get a profile with different types of DJs. I mean, for example, myself, I got introduced to your work through the electrified mixes. Okay. And so it's a great thing that basically through various mixes and various types of charts and whatever else that people can get introduced to your music. As a vocalist, I've always wanted to know this. How do you, because obviously you get your original mixes, which the original mix was the R&B mix, is that right?
Yeah, album mix, yeah.
The album mix, which is an R&B track, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So what was your impression when you heard the electrified mixes?
Oh, I loved it. I loved that, well, they didn't change anything with my vocals.
Right,
it was just the
sure.
feel behind it. And I guess that was, I was blown away, actually, because here I am on those charts singing the same song the same way that I sing it. And then the feels changed, and so they each had their own, success, I guess. But then when I sing it live as well, I do a jazzy kind of version. So
cool.
I don't know what's going to come out of me next. So I go with the flow. Yeah.
Well, listen, for all those who are wondering what the electrified mix is, in case you haven't either heard the podcast or heard Jeniqua's track live on the Weekly R&G, we're going to take a few moments to hear that track now. So that's Making Love, the electrified mix, and we're going to find out a bit more from Jeniqua in just a sec. So hold tight. So we've got in the studio right here on the Weekly R&G for our Gospel House Expo, Jeniqua. That's a local talent who's doing some big things in the R&B scene at the moment. So basically, we've just heard about what you've been doing basically with this track Making Love, but I know that you've also got some other projects on the go. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I have written my debut album last year. There's been a bit of a delay on the release of that, but it's due to be out next year. Really excited for that, sharing all my songs with you. And in the meantime, just I've put out a gospel project.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's been doing really well on mainstream radio over in the UK and, you know, different stations in the States as well, which is really good.
Do you find it frustrating that your music doesn't get as much sort of coverage as you'd like to, say, with the mainstream stations over here?
I haven't actually really tried. So
Okay.
like I said, you know, I sit at home when my kids are asleep writing songs, and I just write and write and write because I just absolutely love it. And I believe that they're going to go where they're going to go. I just release them to go wherever they're going to go, and whatever comes from it is a blessing. I absolutely love what I do. I wake up to what I do. I wake up to what I love doing every day. Anything above and beyond that is a blessing. So I think it'll have its time. I think it's coming. So, you know, it's been in my vision since I was young. I've had this same vision over and over again, and yeah, it's unfolding really beautifully.
I mean, basically, what would you say to, you know, to up-and-coming artists who also want to delve into the R&B scene? I mean, over here in Australia, is it your thinking that the best thing to do would be to always look overseas? Because that seems to be... I mean, we had another artist, a DJ, producer, a few weeks back, Jose Silva, and Shay Jose, actually, and... I mean, this is a guy who's basically doing some big things overseas, but he was getting really frustrated that he wasn't getting as much coverage, and he's actually going to be moving to Europe as a result next year. Do you think that's actually, that mentality is going to change?
I think there's a change coming. Yeah, I do think there's a change coming. What it is, or you know, how or when, I'm not sure of, but yeah, I think people like us can be instrumental in that change. I just think just sticking to what you love, basically. I'm not doing it to get something out of, you know, the scene here in Australia. I didn't even know my stuff was going to do well overseas. It just did. And you know, and it's a blessing, and more of that coming is just amazing. I could possibly move to the States as well, but, you know, I think that whatever goes well over there does end up coming back to Australia as well. It's not really something that I've gone like, oh my gosh, I've got to get somewhere in Australia, or I've got to do this or that. Yeah, I just don't think like that. I just kind of love writing songs, like I said, and just allow them to go wherever they're going to go.
So listen, we're going to be playing a couple more tracks from you. We've got Running and Living Up. Tell us about those tracks. Running
is about running to God. It's actually it is a gospel track, but it's been getting lots of play on mainstream radio. I guess because it's left up to perception. Whoever's listening to it, you know, I don't really like to put limits on my songs and their meanings and stuff, because I just want them to reach people where they're at. For sure. Whatever they get out of them, if it's made their day, if it's uplifting and made them feel good, then great. You know, changed a life. You know, I'm all for that. That's awesome. So yeah, that was just you know, talking to girls or anyone really about relationships. You know, some people run to a guy to fill the void in their life, and really
not a bad thing.
Well, you know, kind of going to God's a bit better than that, because, you know, he knows a bit more. But yeah, so that song's about that. You know, some of these songs are my personal experience, some are visions that I have, or, you know, calling things that aren't as if they are already, things that I'd like to be doing. And I talk about all that kind of stuff in my songs. And you get to know me a lot more in my writing as well. And Get Ready, the other song, is featuring my daughter when she was 4.
Oh, wow.
Yay.
So you're
calling people to rise up and just, yeah.
So she's sort of breaking into the scene. You're gonna.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, she was so adorable. I still remember her little head, and the headphones were way big on her, and it was just the most adorable thing. And she's got the most innocent little voice. Yeah, she's speaking like a psalm.
Oh, so, really?
A scripture. Okay. Yeah. And then more recently, I did with the same guys with Cool Million. Did a Christmas song.
Oh right. Okay.
Last Christmas, and So I thought I'll introduce the kids into that again, and you know they can sing on it this time. So they did, you know.
Superb. Well, look, we're going to be hearing running right about now. So once again, if you've just climbed on board, this is 2SSR 99.7 FM broadcasting out of Sydney Shire. We've got Jeniqua Jen Titus, our guest on the Weekly R&G. This week we're focusing on all things sort of gospel house. And it seemed apt and proper that we would have Jeniqua in the studio. Once again, we're going to be listening to Running. That is probably the cutest track I've heard for ages. Excellent. So that was, once again, that was Jeniqua and Jeniqua's daughter. Shanice.
Love you, Bubby. Love you, Izzy.
Excellent, excellent stuff. Well, listen, it's been great having you on the show, Jeniqua. I mean, I know for a fact that you've also got another track that is going to have a kind of a deep house mix with it. What's tell us about that?
I haven't told anyone about that yet. You're the first.
World exclusive. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a deep house soul track coming out.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Hush, hush.
I'll tell you the name. It's called Keep It Moving. Again, an uplifting message, but yeah. It should get you moving on the dance.
You're going to promise the Weekly R&G crew, okay, that we will have first dibs on that, okay?
Yes.
All right. So you heard it, people. Jeniqua said she's gonna be making sure that we get the track first as world exclusive. Fantastic. Well, once again, this has been the Weekly R&G with the Weekly R&G guest Jeniqua Jen Titus. Giving her insight into all things R&B and yeah, exactly, gospel as well. Yeah, so I hope you're enjoying the show, peeps, and don't forget you can check out the podcast of the interview, and also there'll be a YouTube. I know that we've got Alex's assistant in the house, basically looking after that for us. All good. So once again, back to the beats. It is the Weekly R&G on a Friday night on 2SSR.